Hi, everyone. So good to see you on Friday. Welcome to KREM News at noon. I'm Laura Papetti, and we begin in North Idaho this afternoon. The man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students is scheduled to be back in court today. Brian Koberger's attorneys filed a motion to reconsider his request to have the grand jury indictment against him dismissed. A judge already denied the request, but his defense team says there was misconduct by the prosecution, a lack of evidence, and a biased grand jury. The hearing begins at 1 o'clock, and we will have the very latest, of course, tonight on KREM News coming up at 5. And we do have an update for you this afternoon. Fairchild Air Force Base lifted its shelter in place for areas near the base's main gate. A spokesperson for the base said the response was due to a random vehicle inspection, which then needed further emergency response.
During our routine entry procedures to the installation, we've had an abnormality on it, which caused us to basically implement our emergency response plans. Our professional responders responded out immediately, executed a textbook response, and determined there was no threat or hazard to the base and terminated the response.
Fairchild was under a shelter-in-place order for more than 2 hours while emergency personnel did that inspection. It is 12:02 right now. We're going to head outside. That's where we find Thomas Patrick. Thomas, it's always hard to tell exactly what's happening out there because, first of all, it changes like by the second, and second of all, it's a little bit of sunshine, but a little bit of gray.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nose, Laura. I think you got my sentiments there perfectly. Felt like it was changing by the seconds in terms of the fog coverage this morning. Haven't noticed anything on any of the cameras as of the current hour, but do I look a little bit darker on camera to you? That's because the sun is shining directly behind me here. It is finding a hole in the cloud cover, and it is warming us up quite nicely. We're up to 40 degrees in Spokane. You see this little bit of green that we're seeing on the map here? That is where that hole in the clouds finds itself. So it's up to 43 in Pullman, 43 in Moscow, and there's the satellite imagery, and there it is, that kind of gap in the clouds right there, extending from about Moses Lake all the way to Coeur d'Alene. So yes, the sun is going to shine behind us for a couple hours here. Not bad. We will take it, but there is rain that will be inbound from the west side. Still hasn't quite crossed the Cascades just yet, but our latest modeling has it here at about the 10 o'clock hour for this evening. That's just the first of what is going to be several rounds of rainfall through this upcoming weekend. We'll have full timing details and how much rain to expect for these next 48 hours, all coming up in a couple minutes here.
Thomas, appreciate it. Some of Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets will return to service this afternoon. This following, of course, a door plug on an Alaska jet that blew out in mid-flight 3 weeks ago. The FAA then grounded all MAX 9s in the U.S. after that incident. Inspections found other planes had loose bolts as well. So a lot going on. Chris Van Cleve is at Chicago's Midway Airport with the latest.
This morning, the 737 MAX 9 is ready to fly again. Alaska Airlines is just hours away from its first passenger flight since the planes were grounded in the aftermath of this terrifying scene. A door panel blew out during Flight 1282, leaving a gaping hole.
My goal is to get the airline back to full schedule and give them the Alaska Airlines they know and love so well, which is a safe and reliable airline.
NTSB investigators will return to Boeing's 737 MAX plant today as another team in Washington continues a forensic examination of the door panel that blew out, trying to determine if the 4 bolts that should have held the door in place were installed. That work happening as questions swirl over anonymous posts purportedly from a current Boeing employee and a detailed report in the Air Current alleging during final production, Boeing accessed the door panel that eventually blew off in order to make repairs to the fuselage. Boeing declined to comment, but if that work occurred, those bolts would have had to been removed. After the blowout, they remain unaccounted for.
It was open, but it was never clear if the door was closed and closed sufficiently with the bolts put back. And that seems to be one of the key moments in all of this in terms of understanding where the failure was.
A rare sight Thursday, the 737 production line halted as part of a day-long safety stand-down to allow workers to focus on improving quality control.
We, the Boeing company, are under a tremendous amount of scrutiny, and what I will say is rightly so.
Alaska and United Airlines anticipate inspections on their MAX 9 fleets to take a matter of days, but winning back the public's trust may not be as fast.
There will be some people who will choose not to fly on the 737 MAX 9. I think that consumer concerns will go away in a month, if not less, if we see the 737 MAX 9 operating as it should.
Each plane has to be individually inspected, so return to service for Alaska and United will be gradual. United expects its first scheduled MAX 9 flight on Sunday. Both airlines say passengers who don't want to fly on a MAX 9 will be allowed to change to another flight without any additional cost. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Chicago.
Starting this month, farmers will be required to pay their workers overtime when they log more than 40 hours a week. While the idea certainly sounds good to some farm workers are opposed to the new regulations. They say the new law prompts their employers to cap their hours, resulting actually in less pay. The Center for Latino Leadership gathered at the state capitol yesterday, arguing that the measure is backfiring, especially for seasonal workers.
Now they're having to stay here 52 weeks a year to make the same amount of money or less. And in many cases, it's less than 40 hours a week. We've taken away their profit potential.
In a statement on its website, the United Farm Workers of America, a labor union that testified in favor of the original bill back in 2021, called the exclusion of farm workers from overtime pay racist and is actively campaigning for OT pay to be extended to all farm workers nationwide. This afternoon, Chick-fil-A resubmitted an application to open a location on Spokane South Hill. This is actually a story we've been following quite a bit since 2022. So last week, the fast food chain submitted plans to build on 29th Avenue in Regal next to the old South Hill Grill location. For the last 2 years, the company and Spokane city leaders have been at odds about traffic and parking at that site. The new application is for a building that is just over 5,000 square feet, meaning it would be slightly larger than the North Spokane Chick-fil-A. The restaurant would fit a total of 125 people, and the entire project would cost about $1.1 million. So, Chick-fil-A fans, this is certainly a developing story, and we'll continue to keep you updated on KREM.com.